there is a lot more overtaking, a lot more of a buzz around Formula 1 outside. And there's also one guy out front that's getting really annoying now. Yeah, how are you doing that?
How did he do that? It's all dressed in blue, but it stops at the wrong pit.
Fantastic guys, not bad for number 2 driver. Cheers.
Mark, we need to maintain the gap. Maintain the gap.
Okay, so Fernando is faster than you. Can you confirm you understood that message?
It's because I'm black. That's what Ali G says.
Oh, I'm pushing, don't worry.
Well, he must be the rudderless Russian then, because the steering wheel's sitting in his lap.
The only way that engineer's message could have been any scarier would have been if it was delivered in the dark. He is faster and he is going to attack you.
Ring ding 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 ding.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Backmarkersf1 podcast. That's right, it's boring, it's mid-season, there's nothing going on in the F1 world, but who else to turn to than Backmarkersf1 for some more F1 madness? For this week, even though it's only our second episode, we already have a special for you guys. It's silly season predictions, it's craziness, it's a silly season podcast special, and you know, when it's silly season, you always need to bring on some experts, see who will come in, what are the young guns. Maybe we'll see another Hamilton rookie or Di Resta, you know, blowing everybody off their socks. And for that, who better to have join us than Pete Allen, the editor and admin and I think just main man in PaddockScout.com, the #1 feeder series website. What's up, Pete? Welcome on the show.
Hey there.
And, of course, as per usual, we have the usual Backmarkers F1 whipping boy, Mr. Newey Jr., a.k.a. at Agent Mulder 5, a.k.a. Mr. Matt Ruda. What's up?
Not much.
Not much, yeah. The mid-season has got us all down in the doldrums. We're like, we don't know what to do with our time. There's no F1. But, of course, you know, that's where Pete comes in. He already linked us some good streaming of the Formula 3 races yesterday. And, Pete, just a quick word about your website. How did you start writing about the feeder series? What attracted you to it?
I don't know. Well, it started, when did I start? About April, with a blog. It was very low key. And then I just got more and more into it, really. Yeah, I just like to see, you know, who the coming talents are and what chances they've got of making it, really.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to, you know, look at the young guns and, you know, see how they're building up their way to Formula 1. I mean, there's a couple of really impressive guys, and there have been in the past some guys that really were good in the feeder series, but then just never got into F1 or got out of it after a year and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to track a driver's career right from the beginning. And with things you're doing like that at Paddock Scout, you know, in 5 years or something, you'll know every single detail of the careers of F1 drivers before F1.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I really enjoy your website, and that's why we got you on, because you know there's a bit of uncertainty in certain teams who they're going to bring in. That seems to be a new tendency as well in the teams, that they seem to be getting young talents under their wings. And Red Bull, of course, is I guess #1 in that. They have so many young drivers. Do you have any idea how many young drivers are in the Red Bull Academy?
If you outside of Formula 1, they've only got about 4 at the moment, I think.
Only 4? Huh.
Yeah, it used to be much bigger, but they stripped it down a bit. I think they found it wasn't too useful just backing all these drivers because they were never all going to make it, so they just thinned it out a bit. But I'm sure they'll carry on recruiting more and more.
Well, after Sebastian, you really don't need very many more young drivers. I mean, he's pretty much the wonder boy of wonder boys.
Yeah, they're set for the next 15 years with him, I guess.
Yeah. And then for another couple years after that, after he retires, quote unquote.
Yeah, a 2-3 year hiatus and then the comeback. Who knows, with Mercedes, that seems to be where the Germans end up in the twilight of their career. No, but it's true. I mean, they had so many young drivers, and yeah, I heard quite a good bit of them got dropped, but part of that is linked to the Toro Rosso, which, as we all know, is their feeder team in a way to test out young talent. but those seats have been getting hogged up by Buemi and Alguersuari. And, you know, it seems to be that there's a couple people now knocking at their door. The most known is, of course, Ricardo. I know, I find it silly not to pronounce the I, but that's how the guy says it. So, Ricardo. And what is weird and what I would like to talk to you about first, Pete, is Vergne and Ricardo. Because this year they're both in World Series by Renault. But Vergne is dominating that series. I mean, Ricardo's down in P5 or something. What do you think? How do they hold up against each other, Pete?
Well, Ricardo was in World Series by Renault last year, and he just missed out on the title. It was his debut year, and he just missed out on the title. Vergne, meanwhile, was British F3 champion, and he's moved up to World Series by Renault now, and yeah, he seems to be doing a better job. I mean, the thing is, Ricardo's not... he was always focusing on his third driver role with Toro Rosso, if you like. So he missed the first round of the season, I think, because he was in Shanghai or something. And yeah, but Vergne seems to be doing better. He had a double win last time out at Hungary. They're all at... the series is at Silverstone next weekend. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Vergne could possibly be more talented than Ricardo. We need to wait and see, I think.
Yeah, so he's basically just 1 year behind Ricardo.
Yeah, basically, I think so.
In his evolution. Yeah. Is he younger as well? Do you know that?
Let's have a look.
Wikipedia is our friend.
He might be a year young. Yeah, I think. Yeah, he's a year younger, I think.
Yeah, so he's exactly 1 year behind in the development.
Yeah.
But yeah, and World Series by Renault, it's an interesting series because there seems to be a lot of talent there this year. Some good fights there. You have, and Matt might like this, Alexander Rossi. He's an American, right? He's in World Series by Renault, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yay!
I think he's Tony Fernandez has signed him up. He's on
has he?
Air Asia young. I mean, he's a long way down the pecking order at Lotus because they've got so many reserves. But
I've just had a crisis.
In a sense.
No, I mean literally.
Pants change, please.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, it's good to finally see the potential for an American back in an F1 seat. We haven't seen that. Yes, I know there was a guy in 2005, I know, but he was crap, so let's forget he existed.
Speed with such a name. How can you fail in F1?
He should have been. Yeah, he should have been so much better with that name, shouldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Scott Speed wins the Belgian Grand Prix. It just sounds so good.
Thought that they were messing with me, really, and then I went to Wikipedia, I'm like, oh, really, they weren't.
That really is his name. Yeah, that didn't pan out too well, of course.
This guy's got the name This guy's got the name Rossi, so, you know, that helps as well.
Yeah, new 7-time world champion, but then on 4 wheels, who knows? So, how do you weigh up Rossi? How's he been doing in World Series this year?
He's up there. I think he's 4th in the standings at the moment, by the looks of things. He won the first race of the season. So he's in there. I don't think he's going to win the title. I think that's between Vergne and Robert Wickens, who's reserve at Virgin, and I think it would be between him and Vergne for the title, but Rossi's, you know, not too far behind.
And is this his rookie year, or has he raced in...
Yeah, he was in doing GP3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he finished third in standings.
All right, and GP3 last year was won by Gutierrez, right? The Sauber reserve driver who didn't drive, but De La Rosa did.
Shows you how confident they are in him.
Yeah, well, that's the point. That's why I really like what Toro Rosso and Force India is doing, letting, you know, promising drivers have the Friday seat. I mean, I think a lot more teams should be doing that, because now then you end up with situations like Sauber where they have a reserve driver who they basically have no confidence in, and probably rightly so, because the guy's never been in an F1 car. It's a bit of a shame that, you know, that makes it hard as well, I think, for the young drivers to really break into F1. I think I read somewhere that when Hulkenberg came into F1 last year, and they compared it to Lewis Hamilton, basically by the time of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Hulkenberg did as many miles as Hamilton had done in testing, you know. So that kind of puts things in perspective, and made me rethink a bit, because I'm always very harsh about rookies. And I was thinking, yeah, if only by Hungary had the same mileage in the car, well, it's only normal. And Hulkenberg did pick up the performance near the end of the season. It's just a matter of getting mileage. It's so hard in an F1 car for these young guys. And I don't know, how do you feel that like GP2, which I guess is the official feeder series, it's still pretty far off of what F1 cars do, right?
Yeah, although I think last year when HRT was struggling, I think there was, I heard somewhere that they were around Monaco, the GP2 cars were only a couple of seconds behind or something silly.
Oh, right. But, I think they even were beaten the HRT by the pole man.
Like
yeah, right. That's embarrassing.
But yeah, I think they should make, because obviously the top teams in Formula 1 don't want to waste their Fridays with young drivers, but I think they should just make it compulsory, so then it's fair for everyone.
Yeah, what they could do, and to kind of give incentive to teams to run young drivers, is say, you got 2 extra sets of tires, but only if you run it with a young driver or things like that, Because right now, when Ricardo, I know, it's just stupid. It's not a silent I. He doesn't even know how to pronounce his own name. But
he's almost a Formula 1 driver already.
The reasons why these young drivers don't get a lot of opportunities in F1 cars, and it's so hard to break through, is that little teams actually give them Friday drives. You have the Force India and the Toro Rosso's doing it with Ricardo. Well, now he's into HRT, of course, but the first part of the season. And then you had Hulkenberg, of course, in Force India. But one of the problems is they only get 1 set of tires because the team wants to save the tires for the rest of the weekend. And basically, they have 1 set of the prime tire they have to do the hour-and-a-half session with. Sometimes they get a development tire from Pirelli, but that's basically it. And we all know with the Pirellis, after 15 laps, those tires are gone. So they're basically just skidding around, I would guess. One of the things the FIA could do is just say, you get an extra set of tires or 2 sets of tires, but only if you sent a young guy in there on a Friday. What do you guys think of that solution?
Yeah, I think they should do something to encourage it, certainly.
There's been other ideas saying, have the team stay on the Monday and just give a young driver development day. And that's another option. Of course, that won't work for back-to-back races, but when there's a 2 or 3 week break between, that could work. I mean, logistically, everything's in place. The whole team's there, the car. It would make sense to just have a couple of test days for young drivers, and it would merge, because we've been seeing calls even by John Todd saying, we need to have some extra testing days. This ban is a bit harsh on in-season testing. They could link that, say, okay, you can test your cars for, say, 6 days in a season extra, but you need to do it with a young gun. I think that would be a win-win situation for the young drivers and for the teams.
Could work. And it could give Pirelli a chance to test new compounds, just give them to the young guys.
Yeah, true. I mean, Barrichello's been bitching that he's basically been a test driver this season, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind that some young gun would just trot around, because, I mean, Barrichello, in every Friday practice session, he gets, basically a new car, and it never works, their updates. It's pretty crazy.
Don't get us started on Williams again. I prefer to keep my sanity and temper in check.
Well, I would get into Williams, because don't they have one of the young guns in their driver program? Maybe Pete can enlighten us on that.
Their reserve driver is Valtteri Bottas or something, from Finland. He's leading the GP3 standings at the moment, actually.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, he's quite a prospect, I think. He still needs to do GP2 probably next year before he gets close to Formula 1, but.
Well, who knows? Another flying Finn. Well, okay, we got Heikki Kovalainen, but the Finns have quite a nice history in F1, and well, Heikki's been doing good in the Lotus, but yeah, the Lotus won't get him anywhere near the points even. Well, maybe if he's lucky, if there's a couple of DNFs in front of him. So Valtteri Bottas, he's leading the GP3 standings this year, right?
Yeah, he's only just taken the lead. He had a very slow start, but the thing in GP3 is this year everyone seems to be struggling for consistency. So he's sort of had a couple of wins recently, and that's allowed him to move into the lead,
Yeah,
but it's very closely fought.
Yeah, isn't he the
It's
first one to like win 2 races or something in GP3 the
Yeah,
whole
I think
year?
so.
Yeah.
I think the first 10 races were won by 10 different drivers or something.
Wow, that's either a very competitive field or, like you say, just no one really standing out, no one consistent enough.
Yeah, I think it's the former. I think it's the first. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
a very competitive field. I mean, there's 2 rounds left and there's 8 drivers within 20 points. So
Wow, and there's only 2 rounds left, so
there's
yeah,
2
that's
rounds,
gonna be a
4
tight
races.
one.
Yeah, so that'll be.
Yeah, and well, Gutierrez was last year's champion, right? The Sauer Reserve
Yeah.
driver we discussed earlier, and he's now in GP2, and he seems
He's now
to
in
be
GP2.
doing all right. I think I've noticed him in a couple
Yeah,
races doing well.
He had a bit of a slow start the first couple of rounds, but then I think he won at Valencia, and he's had another podium since.
Ah,
So he's
yeah,
doing quite well.
that's promising, I guess. And plus, he's got his foot in the door with Zauber. I guess he's kind of tagging along on the Telmex money from Carlos Slim, the Mexican deal.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I don't know when he'll get his chance because he's kind of got to wait for Perez to move on. But Perez could always get a Ferrari one day. That's the speculation. But
Yeah,
see how it goes.
let's head into that. So we talked about Red Bull a bit and the young drivers they have under their wings. I know it's a horrible pun, but I can't resist. And but what about the Ferrari Young Driver Academy? So they have Perez. Is there anyone else in there in GP2? I tend to think about some certain Jules Bianchi.
Yes, Bianchi. He's I think he's their reserve officially this year at Ferrari. Yeah, the GP2 title was supposed to be a fight between him and fellow Frenchman Romain Grosjean, who, of course, you'll remember, he took Nelson Piquet's seat a couple of years ago at Renault.
Yeah, and that went well for him.
Yeah, I think he needs to be given another chance, personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bianchi had a really poor start to the season, but he's picked it up a bit since, and he was certainly very quick back in Formula 3. So I think he's got talent. He just needs to be a bit more consistent with it.
Yeah, he seems to be a bit suffering from Lewis Hamiltonitis, being a tad too aggressive out on the track, not knowing when to pull his punches. I mean, that's the impression I get from him. I don't follow it as closely as you do, but he seems to be involved in quite a lot of incidents this year in GP2.
Yeah, he did seem to be earlier in the year. Not entirely sure why. I think it might have been the pressure, but who knows? But he won at Silverstone and he's doing well now. But he's a long way off Grosjean in the championship.
Yeah, I think Grosjean's pretty much got the GP2 locked down, right?
He's got it wrapped up pretty much.
I mean,
yeah.
Who's his closest competitor? Who's in P2 in the standings?
It's Guido van der Garde.
Oh, the Dutchman. Maybe we got a new flying Dutchman, just the boss, but Guido the... Oh, a Guido?
Yeah, I was about to say
fist pump.
There's only one way you can go with that, and it's not good.
Yeah, that's a bit up my alley because I was following Jerome D'Ambrosio as a Belgian. Of course, I follow him a bit more closely than other guys, and I know that in the preseason there seemed to be competition between Van der Garde and D'Ambrosio to get the Virgin seat.
Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah.
Van der Garde's got some decent sponsorship with him, so he might get another chance this winter, I think.
Yeah, well, when it comes to Virgin, I think this Robert Wickens guy seems to be, well, he's talented for sure, and he's now the Virgin reserve driver, as you mentioned before. What do you think are his chances to land the Virgin drive? Because as much as I like Jerome, and I'm of course biased, I'm not sure if he's really doing enough to warrant a renewal of his contract.
I've been quite surprised by him, actually. His GP2 record wasn't brilliant, but he's done quite well. I don't know whether he'll keep hold of his seat or not. It might be down to money. Who knows?
I think at this point it's probably going to be down to whoever brings the bigger contract, just because, I mean, the car and the way it is, nobody's really going to be up to the task of making that team the way they've done at Lotus. They've basically been building that car up to be a midfield contender soon. So I think they're going to try to go for whoever has the most funding. And the fact, I love Jerome, don't get me wrong, Steve, but the fact that he's finished behind the HRT a couple times, like finished, it doesn't help things.
Yeah, that wasn't his most glorious moment. Like in Hungary, getting out qualified by both HRTs, and I found his start to the season very well. I think he even out qualified Glock 2 times in the first 5 Grand Prix or something.
I think he did too. Yeah, it was something like that.
But then he just seems to be sliding downwards, and you have Virgin have first Robert Wickens, who's doing good in GP2 as Pete just said, but they also have Adrian Quaife Hobbs. He's in GP3, I believe. Is that right?
3 at the moment, yeah. He's one for the future. I don't think he's ready yet, but he could be. He could be in there in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
I think they gave him a straight line aero test to do.
Yeah,
so
I think they did. Yeah.
That's a little bit of seat time. Nothing significant, but that shows Virgin is building up their little stack of young guns as well. So yeah, in GP3 you said we have Valtteri Bottas, the flying Finn, who's linked to Williams. We got Quaife Hobbs, who's linked to the Virgin team. And one thing that stood out on the Paddock Scout website, and I have never heard of the guy before, is the Indonesian guy, Rio Haryanto. He seems to be having quite a bit of buzz around him. Can you go in detail about him a bit?
Seems to be very popular in Indonesia. I've had a lot of traffic from Indonesia for his post, but yeah, he did it last year, and he was only 17 or something. It was his first season racing in Europe, and he did really well. He won a race, and he came 5th or something in the standings, and he got a test with Virgin because he was the best driver from the Manor team, who are linked to Virgin.
Oh, so he has links to Virgin as well.
Yeah, so he drove with them in Abu Dhabi at the end of the year in the young drive test.
Oh, I see.
I think he was pretty off the pace, but for a 17-year-old, you can't expect him to be that quick.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And how's this GP3 run going this year?
Again, another slow starter. He didn't score any points for a long time, but then he won at the Nürburgring with a fantastic performance in the wet. There was a 3-way battle at the end of the race, and he came out on top. And then he won again in Hungary. His slow start means he's out of the title fight, really.
Even with all those different winners and nobody consistent enough. Yeah.
But yeah, he's certainly impressing.
Right. Yeah, and plus, the region is definitely making inroads into F1. Of course, you got the whole Malaysia deal with Group Lotus and Team Lotus, all Malaysian, and the region seems to be really getting this little motorsport vibe going on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. He might pick up some significant sponsorship. But one thing that makes me think about this whole Malaysian thing. Force India have their 1 in a billion project, right, where they're looking for the next Indian driver to become the next Vettel or something. Is Fernandez doing something like that, or because I don't know, Malaysia it seems to be the up and coming F1 country, but
I think he's picked a few carters up to this same program that he's put Rossi on. But some very young, 14-year-olds or something like that.
Yes, it's a long-term deal. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one other guy, since we're still on GP3, 2 other guys basically, Alexander Sims and Nigel Melker, another Dutchman, and Sims is a Brit, if I'm correct.
Yep. Yeah. He's had a couple of years in Formula 3 already, and he's come to GP3 really as a title contender. But he's backed by the Gravity Sports Management firm.
Oh Lord,
it's D'Ambrosio.
Monsieur Bouillet.
Yeah. So he might get a run in GP2 next year if he impresses, and then who knows from there. But he's quite. I think he was a late start. I think he didn't start in single seaters till he was about 18, which is a couple of years later than most people. So he's 23 already.
Oh yeah.
So he's pushing. He's against the clock, if you like. But I think he'll. Yeah. So we have to wait and see on him, but.
Yeah, if he doesn't,
he's certainly got some talent.
If he doesn't pay attention, he'll end up like a Gary Paffett, like an eternal reserve driver. Because Paffett showed some good promise as well in the junior series, if I remember correctly. But he's like 30 now and in an eternal reserve driver role in McLaren, and he's got the DTM thing going on, of course. But yeah, at 23 to still be in GP3, time is ticking there for Alex Sims. And what about Nigel Melker, the Dutchman? Because it's my brother people, the Dutch. So I want to keep an eye on what they're doing as well.
Well, he did start the season well. He won the first race of the season.
So one good starter. That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, he was looking like the early contender, but he's tailed off a bit since. But he's still in the running. He's third in the standings at the moment.
Not too bad.
And he's doing the Formula 3 Euro Series at the same time, so he's got a busy program. He's racing most weeks of the year.
Yeah, that's what's crazy with some of these young guys. You see them; they switch from series to series. And our good buddy Journey to Hell on Twitter, he'll enjoy this. There's this Mikhail Aleshin guy, this Russian, who is, if I'm correct here in my facts, who is in World Series by Renault. But then the stream you linked us to yesterday for the Formula 3. He was racing in Formula 3 as well. So a lot of these young guys, they seem to be series hopping from time to time. Is that a common thing to do, or?
Yeah, I think with Aleshin, I think he's struggling with cash a bit. I think he was due to. I think he did start the season in GP2.
Is Petrov soaking all the Russian money up?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yes, I got my Petrov bash in.
Oh god, just wait until we get to the silly season predictions, folks. We'll get plenty of massive bashing in.
But you say so, like, he's struggling for money, but then how does he show up in F3? Is it
I think I read somewhere that that's kind of a free drive he's doing with a team, a Russian team who want to develop their car, and so he's just doing a race for them, I think.
And that leads me to another question I wanted to ask you. I mean, these cars, they're basically, from how I understand it, they seem to be basically the same spec cars, right? There's not a lot of differences in the car, but you still have these successful teams and stuff. So how much freedom do teams really have to like develop a car, and be it GP2 or GP3, F2, F3? Because from what it looks like to me, someone who doesn't really follow it so closely, it seems like they give the guys equal cars and the best man wins, but it's still the same teams usually on top. You got Carlin and ART, and it's basically, how does that come? Are they just better teams, better personnel, better setup work, or do the teams have some liberty to develop a car?
Yeah, I don't know exactly why that is, but yeah, certainly in GP2, GP3, all the cars are the same. But certain teams always do better than others. But I think if you are one of the best teams, then you automatically attract the best drivers, and that just helps you to stay out front, really.
Oh yeah, it's like a snowball effect, really.
Yeah.
They got their name out there. It's they know it's a winning team, so the most talented ones usually end up at those teams one way or the other. Okay, that's a good point. Because that was always something on my mind. I was like, why are there top teams? It's not like in F1 where teams develop their own car and there's so many different parts, but there it's basically spec racing, and still you got the same ones coming out on top. So we've talked a bit GP2, GP3. Like, in your opinion, how I see it, it's GP2 is the official feeder series. It gets pretty much most of the attention. And shortly behind that, it's World Series by Renault, in large part helped by Ricardo, who's now into F1, so there's been a bit of attention for that. But if you needed to make like a ranking, like which are the highest echelon of feeder series drivers, how would you rank it?
Yeah, GP2's certainly there at the top, and yeah, World Series by Renault's a good rival series for it, if you like. Red Bull seem to decide that they prefer it to GP2. I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, that's true. Is it budgetary reasons maybe? Because I heard that World Series by Renault is cheaper to run than GP2.
Yeah, it is cheaper. GP2 is very expensive. I think.
Then again, money's not an issue for Red Bull, so
no.
It's still a bit strange.
So I don't know why that is.
And how do the cars stack up against one another? Like, if you would have a mixed race, GP2 cars, World Series by Renault cars, is GP2 much faster, or is it pretty similar? What do you think?
I think it's fast. I think it's faster. I don't know whether it's much faster. I don't know until we get them on the same track. I suppose I can compare lap times, but I haven't got that to hand.
That would be interesting to see, but it's never going to happen, of course. Because and it shows as well. I mean, you have so many different feeder series, and some of them are competing with one another, and I mean, the FIA should really try to streamline it in that a bit. And I mean, GP2, GP3 is a step towards that. But then you still have the other rival series in a way, World Series by Renault, and then Formula Renault 2.0. How about we go into Formula Renault 2.0 a bit? Who are the winners and losers in those? You know, it's a step down from it's like GP3 to GP2, right?
Yeah, but it's sort of below GP3, if you like.
Okay.
It's more for people coming straight out of karting, really. But in the European Championship, Formula Renault Championship, you've got a name you might recognise, Carlos Sainz.
Aha, el junior.
Carlos Sainz Jr.
El hijo de Carlo.
But he's backed by Red Bull.
Yeah.
So he's certainly one we'll probably see in the future.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of man love going around for Carlos Sainz Jr. He seems to be really impressing in there. Is he like dominating the season or something? But
yeah,
it's
a
name
again, yeah.
you hear a lot. Sure, he's got the famous daddy that helps at this stage of his career. But so he's really been doing good in Formula Renault as well.
Yeah, he won yesterday and he won again this morning, it turns out. So yeah.
Ooh, double win. Yeah, definitely. So. And he's got the Red Bull loving as well.
Yeah.
Man, things are going to get tight there around Marco's place to see who gets those seats. I mean, they already have 4 Formula 1 seats, but they have Ricciardo, Verne, they have now this guy. Jesus, that's some tough competition. You might think, it might not be such a good move to throw your lot in with Red Bull as a young driver, because, Jesus. Plus, I mean, in the beginning, they were ruthless. I mean, they threw out Bourdais, they threw out Scott Speed, and they threw out Vittantonio Liuzzi, and now there's like 3 years they're already in the Toro Rosso teams, those two guys. So I'm a bit surprised that neither Alguersuari or Burmi have gotten the boot yet. I guess maybe they got to this point now that they say, well, we've invested so much time in them now, we're not going to let another team profit from it. But yeah, I mean, people are starting to knock on the door. I mean, Ricciardo's definitely going to move up to STR next year. Well, that's what my opinion is. What do you think about that, Pete? Do you think, I mean, it seems to be the general consensus that Ricciardo is at least going to get a STR race seat next year.
Yeah, it's possible. I think you could always swap with Alguersuari, because HRT seem to want Spanish drivers, so, that would work for them. Dropping Alguersuari or Buemi altogether, Red Bull, it's a bit difficult, because it's difficult to compare the two of them and actually work out which is best, because whenever we think one of them's better, it then seems to turn around the other way.
Yeah, well, they're going to need to drop one of them. I mean, unless Webber goes, which, I don't know, what do you guys think? Is Webber going to renew his contract? There were rumors that he was going to announce in Hungary that he re-signed, but nothing came out of it, no official announcement. So I don't know, I'm starting to doubt a bit if Webber is really going to keep going. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to depend on the title race. I think that if the McLarens don't step up to challenge Vettel for the WDC and Webber starts having stronger results than Sebastian, it's going to matter, I think, for him how much the team, because let's be honest, Sebastian is the #1 driver at Red Bull. There's no doubting that. And I don't think Webber is that kind of driver. He wants an even fight between two. I think that if Red Bull start playing too much of a favoritism card, he's not going to sign.
Yeah, things like, Mark, you need to maintain the gap. I'm sure the Aussie bastard did not enjoy hearing that on the radio. I really hoped, because the Formula 1 official race edits, they usually, well, sometimes they drop in a little extra team radio you didn't hear during the race, and nothing has come out of it, but I really want to hear that Red Bull team radio, those final laps on Silverstone.
Oh, it's probably just, what the fuck are you talking about over and over from Mark? to be honest, that's probably all you heard over and over and over and over. Because
yeah, I think Mark, he said he just didn't reply. He just didn't answer. But yeah, it would have been interesting to hear Christian Horner begging Marcus, maintain the gap. I mean, come on. At least be honest about it. Say, Mark, do not pass Vettel. He is faster than you. So
meanwhile, Sebastian's just sitting in his seat smiling from ear to ear. Just like, yes, I have someone. They love me. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Smell my speed. Yeah. So what do you think, Pete? How is Webber? What's Webber gonna do this year? And do you think That's one of the things I'm thinking about, because I talked about that in the last podcast. Ricardo's got the man love from Helmut Marko, and neither Buemi or Alcaspari do. Hey, it's not only an F1 podcast; it's also homoerotic.
Well, what now? What if I put my name on?
Yes, Matt Ruda. I'll send you his email address. Just PM me. No,
Oh,
but
shit.
I was thinking that with them so desperate to give him seat time, even buying him an HRT seat, what are the odds of Ricardo getting into a Red Bull if Mark Webber does quit? What do you think about that, Pete?
I don't know really. I think it depends. Yeah, what the likes of Helmut Marko think of Buemi and Alcaspari. It's difficult to see really. But yeah, certainly early in the season when Webber was getting pretty much destroyed by Vettel, I thought that there's no point in him carrying on there because he's just getting destroyed by him. But recently he's seemed to have certainly be doing a bit better, so he might want to stay on another year.
Yeah, well, then there was Hungary, but Webber does seem to have gotten on top. Well, let's discard Hungary then, because there he was again adrift and not on the pace of Vettel. But yeah, in Nürburgring, I mean, he did nab a couple poles this season. He seems to finally get his mind around the Pirelli tires, because I think that really hurt him. And I think it was his Hungary pole lap as well. Who knows? These drivers, they've been in F1 for 10 years, and they've seen the knobs and buttons, augment. And I think he had a problem with his KERS in qualifying. And for his final run, he did have KERS, so he used it on the home straight, starting his quali lap. But he forgot to use his DRS because the KERS wasn't working before, but he did get DRS boost before, so he didn't notice that he was lacking one of the boosts. So, I don't know, maybe it's just too much for the old man, He's only 34, I know, but I found that a bit weird to hear that admission. Yeah, I kind of basically forgot DRS until I was halfway down the home straight. Did you guys hear that?
I didn't hear that, no, but
No, neither did I.
Weird.
Yeah, that does seem kind of funny. That I mean, I guess when you got all of those buttons. I mean, what is it, like 20 something buttons and dials and knobs and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I guess would it be easy to figure out one? Yeah, but then I mean, the one that gives you the massive speed button, the push to pass button, you forget. Come on, Webbo.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, but I'm definitely, I heard him talk about that. He was saying, yeah, I mean, you can understand his problem as well. If he didn't have KERS before and he did have the DRS boost feeling, but so he didn't see it on his speedometer, seeing like, I'm that much faster or slower because he had basically similar boost. But that's what I heard, that he forgot, well, until halfway down the home straight on his quali lap. So that must have lost him a couple tenths. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely interested to see what's going on with Red Bull. Basically, for the silly season, Webber's got the key in his hands. I mean, that's basically it.
Oh yeah, everything at this point depends on what Webber does. Sebastian is a non-factor. He's already signed. He's good to go. So really, what happens at Toro Rosso and then by proxy now with Ricardo at HRT, what happens at HRT all depends on Webber, really.
Yeah, it's a snowball effect, really. I mean, if that Red Bull seat opens up, all pandemonium is breaking loose. It's going to be fun. So in a way, I like Webber much more than I like Vettel. But yeah, for his own career, does he want to be number 2 to Vettel for eternity until it lasts his career? Maybe 1 or 2 more years. I don't know. Maybe he wants to go to the V8 Supercars. That's a pretty cool series.
What I would do if I were Webber, if I kept getting these team orders over my radio, I would just wait until the very, very end, keep them hanging, and then not renew my contract and cause pandemonium. That would be an epic, epic way out, if you ask me.
That would be cool. And in a way, it's linked to Ferrari as well, because that's another one I mean, sure, Massa's got a contract for 2012 season. And maybe he's being saved by a couple factors. First, like Bianchi's not really impressing in GP2. Well, he showed, like we discussed earlier with Pete, I mean, he shows he has the pace. But he's not been that impressive in the sense, like, for him to really be thrown in a Ferrari seat, he should have dominated it like Grosjean is dominating it this year. And, well, they got Perez, who's in the Ferrari Academy, but, might want to... Well, he's been signed for Sauber for next year as well. So, I don't know, it's starting to look like Massa's seat is saved for next year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's safe for another year. But yeah, he's certainly a long way off Alonso, isn't he? But I don't know if anyone could do any better, really. I think Alonso's just very good, particularly in a car that's maybe not so good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like Alonso seems to be able to extract way more out of a car than you ever expect. He did that with Renault. He's doing that now with Ferrari. But yeah, I think that for this next year, barring some kind of weird moves from Sauber, like revoking the contract renewal or something, I don't see anyone else taking a Ferrari seat. And like you said, they don't have anyone really to, of caliber to take the seat. So I think Massa stays on for at least one more year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely saving his ass. Just the fact that there's no obvious contender lined up to take his seat, And Perez is doing well, but since he's been confirmed with Sauber now, and it would be probably a bit unfair to give Perez the seat. And Ferrari's never been the team to really gamble like McLaren did with Hamilton, or in a sense Red Bull did with Vettel. Sure, he had the good year at Toro Rosso, but still was a very young gun. So yeah, I think Massa, I hope for him he really ups his performance, but like Pete said, it's no gift to be up against Alonso. He's pretty much destroyed all teammates he had except one. We all know how interesting that season was.
Yes.
Yeah, that's been cool.
Hamilton is faster than you.
All right. And now we have Pete on board. I want to talk about the Renault team as well. Last podcast we were discussing how horrible they were doing and how the team was slipping back. Sure, they have Grosjean now coming up, but at the season presentation, I was amazed. They had this group picture with all their reserve drivers, and there were like 6 or 7 guys around there. Aside from Grosjean, is there anyone else we could keep our eye on, Pete?
Well, they got Bruno Senna, of course.
True.
But otherwise, they've got Feroz Fauzi, who was reserve at Team Lotus last year. He's doing GP2 this year, but he's well down the order. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think who else they had. Nobody significant. I think they got Ho Pin Tung, the Chinese driver. I don't think anyone with a lot of talent, really, to be honest.
Yeah. And when it comes to Bruno Senna against Romain Grosjean, do you think Grosjean's got more of the man love from Boulier? Because I'm starting to think, people are talking already that Heidfeld might lose his seat before the end of the year, and they're going to put Senna or Grosjean in it. Who do you think is in pole position for that?
Yeah, I think Grosjean probably is, because he's done what was expected of him this year by winning GP2 and winning it by some way, really. So yeah, I think he deserves another chance, really.
It would be a tad unfair to Senna, though, because, he's been test driver. He hasn't been racing any other series, so, don't really give him a chance either to prove himself. He had one testing session now in Hungary, but, yeah, it does seem like they want Grosjean back in, but judging by Grosjean's latest experience in 2009, joining for the last couple of races, I don't know. Do you think Grosjean would jump on the opportunity, or would he say, guys, why don't you give me a race seat for next year that I can do the preseason testing and stuff, get into the team? Although now he doesn't have an Alonso to contend with, but a Petrov, so that might make him a bit more confident.
Yeah, I think he, should be able to match Petrov, perhaps. I don't think he did too badly last time. I think considering that he'd had no time in the car, really, he wasn't behind. He matched what Piquet was doing in the car before him. I think just a lot against Alonso, anyone would look pretty poor coming in mid-season.
Yeah, well, all I remember from Grosjean's first period in F1 is that he punted off either Button or Hamilton in Spa and Lecombe. But other than that, it didn't make much of an impression on me. And how old is he now? 23, 24 as well. And with all the experience he has, he kind of had to dominate GP2 compared to the relative inexperience of his competitors. The guy's been in an F1 race seat. it would have been embarrassing if he didn't win GP2. I mean, he's doing very impressively, but that's only to be expected with the amount of experience he has compared to his competitors. It's kind of like Maldonado last year with 5 years or 4 years experience in GP2, racing against like second-year drivers or third-year drivers, maybe maximum. You can't expect them to dominate it. Otherwise, it's clear they're just not cut out for it. So I think we need to take Grosjean's GP2 dominance with a grain of salt. I mean, after all, the guy has had race seats in F1 for 6 or 7 races. He's got a lot of more experience than his competitors.
Yeah, but he earned that seat in the first place in a way because he'd been impressive as a youngster. I don't know. Personally, I think he deserves another chance, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Renault. I mean, they're very unpredictable as a team. Let's just put it out. Things might just explode from time to time over there.
Yeah, you never know when you might have to, dance your way out of a tricky situation.
Yeah, for sure. And any young Spanish drivers that HRT might want to pick up? That's a field I really don't know about. Because HRT is like a big mystery. I mean, nobody knows who's going to be their driver for the next race, let alone the next season. Is there any like Spanish young talents coming up, Pete?
There's no one obvious off the top of my head I can think of. I mean, I heard talk that there's a World Touring Car driver. Okay, Javi Villa. He was doing he was doing GP2 for a few seasons, and he did reasonable. But yeah, there's talk that they want him. Otherwise, in GP2, you've got Danny Kloss, but he's not, he's not right up there. He's doing all right.
And
but
isn't I think that's F3 Juncadella, or is he not Spanish?
Yes, yeah, he is, and there's Roberto May as well, who's leading the championship.
Oh, he's Spanish as well? I think him Brazilian. Mary just sounds Brazilian. Oh, so he's Spanish, okay. And that's Formula 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, long been a established category. It's taken a bit of a hit from GP3 really recently because it's not as accessible as GP3 is in terms of money. So it's struggling a bit at the moment for grid sizes, but
also they have a pretty small grid lineup now.
Yeah, it's only about, the Euro Series races. I think they've only got 12 or 13 cars or something.
Oh yeah, that's a bit getting tight there. So they're getting all the good drivers are running through GP3 because I guess the budgets are fairly similar then to GP3.
Yeah, I think GP3's the budgets are lower. I think.
Okay. Because for a lot of these young drivers, a lot of it is down to budget. I mean, you really need to find some good backing, or be hugely talented, or have a famous dad to get him in there. It makes me think we haven't discussed about him yet. F2, Alex Brundle. He seems to be doing all right, but I mean, I followed him from afar a little bit. But he's not challenging for the championship now, is he?
No, he did it. He did Formula 2 seasons ago, and he was, well down the order.
Oh, really? He just came back to Formula 2, actually.
Yeah, I think he went back. I think he took a step down to Formula 3 last year.
Interesting.
And then he's come back to Formula 2 again. And yeah, he was expected to be a title contender, but he's not quite been good enough.
Who is the top dog in F2 at this point?
It's Mirko Bortolotti, who's quite interesting because he's been dropped in the past by both Red Bull and Ferrari.
Ouch!
He was on both of their books.
And now he's flying solo. He's got no F1 backing anymore.
Nope.
And is he? He sounds Italian. Is it an Italian?
Yeah, he's Italian. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the interesting part. I mean, Ferrari, it's gotta be tempting for them to have an Italian. I mean, Jules Bianchi, even though he's got a very Italian name, is still French. But yeah, it's not. It's all about talent, of course, as well. I mean, Ferrari's not going to put anyone in their car that hasn't proven himself in the lower series. Yeah, one more thing. There's talk about the Belgian contingent, which is, except for D'Ambrosio, pretty much a vast land of nothingness. But I did do some research, and I found this guy, two guys actually. In F3, there's Lawrence Van Thor, and in Formula Renault, there's Stoffel van Doorne. Have they made any kind of impression on you? Please feed my hope.
Van Dorn is supposed to be quite talented, apparently. He's been signed up. He's one of the drivers on the FIA Institute Academy. So yeah, I think he's only in his second season of car racing. But I think he's one for the future. I think he's doing the Formula Renault Euro Cup. So he's not doing as well as Sainz, but he's a contender, I think. Vantor, yeah, he's in the Formula 3 Euro Series. He's mid-pack there, really. He's not quite in contention, but
well, I think with the tiny size of this country, pretty much any sponsorship there is for motorsports is probably all going to D'Ambrosio to keep the seats. This is the biggest sponsor he took is Quick. You can see it, Quick, on the Virgin car, which is basically a Belgian version of McDonald's. So that gives you an idea of the non-clout behind Belgian motorsport drivers.
You probably don't even want to know what American sponsors would come out for. Oh God.
Yeah, Jerky
Can you
Perky?
imagine?
That's Raikkonen sponsor in the truck series, right? Jerky Perky or Perky Jerky or something.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, and Quick and Perky Jerky can send us their contributions for this free advertising. By the way, I'll send you the details. Because I'm sure reps of them are listening to this Backmarkersf1 podcast.
Although, to be fair, we might actually have somebody in F3 listening, because I've completely forgotten, but I actually have an F3 driver who follows me.
Oh, really? Who might that be?
Yep. Rupert Svetsson-Cook, I think I'm saying that right.
Never heard of him. Pete, can you enlighten us?
Yeah, he's in British Formula 3. I think he follows a lot of people, to be totally honest.
Damn!
His name out there.
I think he's following me, but yeah.
So he's basically a very good Twitter user, but on track he still has to prove a lot.
On track he's doing okay. I think he's won some races in British Formula 3 this year.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, no, way to deflate my bubble. I didn't even know who the guy was. I just see this random thing in my feed, and I'm like, who's this? Formula, and then I had a crisis, but now you've just deflated it.
Hey, so. I was ecstatic. I got a tweet from Jerome D'Ambrosio himself. I was like, woo!
Really?
Yeah, it was. I did the laps on F1 2010. I said, I'm taking Jerome D'Ambrosio for a spin around Spa, and he told me, tell us your time, and I'll try to beat it in the Grand Prix. He's like, I don't think so, bucko. Can't beat me in the virtual world.
You still should set up the time, though. Just watch him try.
Yeah, definitely.
First thing you're going to see him go into Eau Rouge and cut the corner and flip or something. You're like, oh, that's not going well.
Yeah, okay. Had a little lack of downforce. So
1-1 wing settings, 1-1.
So let's since this is still silly season, we've talked about Red Bull, we've talked about Ferrari, talked about McLaren, not really, but I think pretty much everybody's convinced that it's going to be Hamilton-Button next year. There's one guy we haven't talked about, and he's more linked to Mercedes than to McLaren, I think. It's Sam Bird, Brit in GP2, and he's got a little bit of a vibe around him. What's the deal on Sam Bird, Pete?
Yeah, he seems to be doing a lot of work for Mercedes. He demonstrated their car at Goodwood, and he's been wearing their uniform around the paddock, I think, but he's not actually been named their test driver. They don't have a reserve driver, but I think he's as good there. I think he's basically filling that role.
Yeah.
But yeah, in GP2 he had a good start to the season. He was tied for the championship lead a couple of times, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But he's tailed off a bit mid-season, so he's not up there with Grosjean. But
yeah, I think he got punted off a few times by Bianchi as well, didn't he?
Yeah, perhaps.
that doesn't help, of course. And I think he's also going to do another demo run for Mercedes because Anthony Davidson broke his collarbone or something in a biking accident last week. So I think I just read yesterday that Sam Bird's going to do a little demo run. I don't remember where, but for the Mercedes. But of course Mercedes have got Di Resta, who's being lined up for whenever Schumacher decides he's had enough, right?
Yeah, I think he probably will get that drive.
Yeah, I agree completely. if anybody, it's going to be Di Resta.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in pole position for that Mercedes drive. It all just depends how long Schumi's going to tough it out and hope to regain some form or glory.
Yeah, not going to happen, but one can hope. It'd be nice to see him on the podium just one more time, just for old time's sake, and then bye-bye.
Yeah, and since we're on GP2 and Bird as well, there's one guy we haven't talked about yet, is Charles Pic, another Frenchie, and he's quite up there in the standings, isn't he?
Yeah, he's won 2 or 3 times this season. He's only in his 2nd season, so he's doing quite well against the likes of Bianchi and Grosjean. So yeah, there's a lot of French drivers for someone like Renault to choose from.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that how French motorsports have gone down over the past 10 years. It's definitely way overdue to have another good French driver. They have so many legends. Prost, one to think of course, but Tambay and all that, and French motor racing has just dropped off the F1 radar. And who knows, with some of these young talents, Grosjean, Pic, Bianchi, yeah, Grosjean is Swiss French though, right? I think he's double nationality.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, this is probably a good time to mention the fact that good old Bernie Eccleston has been saying that he wants to potentially alternate your home race, Steve, Belgium, Spa, with French Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So, could that be the resurgence of French motor racing at the expense of the Belgians?
It could, and as much as it saddens me to say, I would love a Belgian Grand Prix every year, but they just don't have any money. I mean, the circuit's been basically bailed out a couple times by the regional government, the Walloon government in Belgium, and they just don't have any cash. And in a way, if that's the price to pay to keep the Spa Grand Prix on the calendar, albeit once every 2 years, so be it, And France deserves a GP. They need a Grand Prix. And I don't understand why it actually got out. And French politicians have been getting into it as well, backing the Grand Prix. I think the Prime Minister has been getting in there. Is it Fillon, I think, François Fillon. Unless he got booted out already by Sarko. He's kind of trigger happy when it comes to that. But yeah, I would prefer to see a dull track like Bahrain ditched for that. But Bernie always goes where the money is, and I think if the Belgian Grand Prix doesn't accept a deal like that, they're gonna go bankrupt. They were already virtually bankrupt for the last 5 years. Which is insane if you count, how many races there are at the Spa track. It's not just F1, but every weekend there's something going on at Spa. But still, they just can't make things work around there. So if that's the price to pay, so be it, I think from the F1 community, you'd have a bit of a backlash because Spa is just such an iconic track. And I don't just say that because I'm Belgium. I think pretty much everyone agrees that Spa is one of the best F1 tracks around. So it would be a shame to see it only once every 2 years, but that's what it takes for it to keep on the calendar. Even as a Belgian, and stuff to admit, so be it, Fuck you, Bernie.
I think that pretty much sums up all our sentiments towards that.
Yeah.
3 words.
Fuck you, Bernie. So, okay, let's run down the list a little bit quick. Renault we've talked about with Grosjean and Senna. Force India, well, like we said, we have Hockenberg waiting in the wings for Suttel to cut himself up. Sauber's been confirmed. It's going to be Perez, Kobayashi, and Gutierrez as well. He's still going to be the reserve driver. Maybe Gutierrez might... you see him moving up to GP2 next year?
GP2 this year.
You see him moving up the grid,
Formula 1.
Challenging?
Yeah, I think he should be in contention.
And who knows, maybe he'll get a Friday drive from time to time, that when they need him, he can actually drive the car. So yeah, Toro Rosso, we discussed at length about Fern, Ricciardo, Buemi, Agaswari, lots of good guys there in the Red Bull stable, so that's definitely going to be a team to watch as well for some excitement. Virgin we talked about, we got Glock who signed on. We got D'Ambrosio, who's going to need to find a big sponsor bag if he wants to keep Robert Wickens out of the seat. That's how I see it anyway. Team Lotus, we talked a bit about. They have, they got Karun, of course, Karun Chandok as their third driver, but they have Valsecchi. I don't think we've mentioned him before. He won the Monaco race in GP2, didn't he?
Yeah, he's with Team Air Asia, which is sort of Team Lotus's little sister team, if you like, in GP2. Yeah, he won the GP2 Asia title a couple of years ago, where the competition wasn't so fierce. But he hasn't quite been able to be a front runner. Well, he's been a front runner, but he's not been a title contender, if you like, in the main series. But I think he's got a bit of sponsorship as well, so that might help him to get a drive with Lotus.
He seems to be a consistent driver. I mean, he doesn't seem to have very much, well, the raw pace to really be up there, but he seems to be fairly consistent, keeping the car in one piece, you know, another Nick Heidfeld or something like that. maybe in his pre-Renault days, though. And, well, Williams we talked about. They got Valtteri Bottas, who's doing good in GP3. And HRT, well, who the hell knows? Maybe Javier Villa, like you said, in World Touring Car Championship. But he must be like 24, 25 by now, right? Or, you know, the other Spaniards, Juncadella and Meri, you talked about.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
Yeah, you know, in HRT it's basically a matter of who has the biggest bag of money.
I think
that's
so.
basically what it's down about. So to wrap this up, I've seen this good weekend preview for the series. You want to go into it a bit? Because there's this Masters of F3 at Zandvoort. Can you talk us a bit about this race? Why is it called the Masters? And is it something like important in the F3 season or something? And can you give us your little preview?
Yeah, I don't know why it's called the Masters, but it is considered, well, I suppose the reason is they pluck all the drivers from the various national championships and the European Championship and put them against each other, really, at Zandvoort in the Netherlands and try and find out who's best.
So it's like, guys that don't usually necessarily race against each other and everybody thrown in one lot?
Yeah, basically. I think this year it's mainly just the Euro Series against the British Championship.
Ah, sweet. And who are the favourites for the Masters of F3 then?
Well, you've got Roberto Mehi, obviously. He's, seems to be out front on his own this year in Formula 3. But other people, you've got Marco Wittmann, you've got Daniel Juncadella. And from the British Championship, you've got Kevin Magnussen, who's the son of Jan Magnussen.
Is that a rally driver or a
Yeah, he was a Formula 1 driver at some point from Denmark. He's had more success in sports cars recently, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that's your main contenders, really.
Cool. So so that's the things going on at Zandvoort, right, in the Netherlands. Masters of F3. Sounds good. It's probably going to be on now, right?
I think it is on about now.
All right, we should be wrapping this up so you can make your Paddock Scout reviews, having seen the race. You seem to be pretty good at finding some good live streams of everything, so I'm sure you'll find that. Although F3, you can see they stream on their own site, right? And
that was the German Championship yesterday.
Oh yeah, that was Richie Stanaway. He seems to be dominating that. It's a Kiwi, right? A New Zealander. 8 wins out of 11 races or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's pretty impressive as well. He's definitely going to move up somewhere, right, with that kind of performance.
Yeah, he's another one on the Gravity stable.
They seem to have a pretty big stable around there. I mean,
yeah, it seems to be.
Boulier might not be a very good team boss, but he seems to be okay in getting drivers into F1, because I don't think last year at this point anybody expected D'Ambrosio to be in an F1 seat.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so for sure. So anything else we should know about the feeder series, or want to plug your site a bit, tell people where to head to check out the Paddock Scout website?
Yeah, just head to www.paddockscout.com. You can follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter as well. The links are there on the site.
All right, we'll definitely put that up in the show notes as well. Matt, Mr. Newey, after your D-Forms exam, any bright ideas how to make an F1 car even faster? How to save Renault, maybe?
Well, I think they're a little beyond saving, to be honest. But, no, not really. I just, now every time I see, like, something that looks like a moment, I'm gonna cry. So yeah. But beyond that, no new ideas yet, but you never know. You never know what could be what could be cooking up in my brain. Actually, nothing really. Nothing really. But
Yeah, you're gonna revolutionize the HRT shark fin. I'm sure about it.
oh yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm sure I could do a better job at the aerodynamics than they've done already. That car looks like, oh god.
I'm not sure if they even have an aerodynamicist. I think Colin Collis and Jeff Willis are just doing everything.
They just take a canvas paper, pretty picture. Well, they can't afford canvas,
Hey,
so they take a piece of notebook paper and a pencil, pretty picture, and that's the car.
I mean, Nui does it on a car on paper, so why can't we?
Pretty much.
I want to thank everybody who tuned into this for tuning in. And I want to thank massively Matt Ruda for being on here back again in the early hours of a Sunday morning back in the States. And of course, massive thanks to Pete Allen of PaddockScout.com for joining us for the show and giving us the lowdown on who are the young guns really starting to push to get into F1. So massive thanks to both of you guys here, and stay tuned for the Backmarkers F1 blog and for another podcast, which is probably going to be after the Spa race. We always love your feedback. You can now find the podcast on iTunes. There's an RSS feed. I broke my head a la Juan Pablo Montoya when a camera hits his face to make sure you guys get all the links you need. Make sure you check out, again, PaddockScout.com. Follow him at PaddockScout. Great site if you want to know what's going on in the lower, the feeder series. So definitely check it out. Thanks a bunch, Pete, for coming on, and thanks, Matt. Peace out.
Catch you guys later. Enjoy.